Welcome again to this episode. Hey, we are exploring a rewarding career in human resources, and we have a beautiful guest here. I've actually put her on the screen even before I introduced her, but yeah, we are walking. If you heard anything and you're on the program and you're thinking, oh, what did she just say? You can go back to the link and you will listen. You can listen again. So I am here with a beautiful member of Forbes Council, a member of Institutes of Directors, an executive career coach. She works with professionals to attract and accelerate their positions. So here with me is welcome much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, sis. It's a pleasure to be here. Hi, everybody.
Yes, my Fejikola person. So yeah, we always bring ourselves on here. Fejikola girls are rising. Hallelujah.
Yes,
All
we
right, let's go
are.
on. Let's go
Sure.
on to. So please, for those who are joining us, thank you very much for joining us. Please like, share, comment, and Duka will be here to give you answers to any questions you have regarding human resources. So today I'll go straight. Please introduce your beautiful self.
Wow. Okay. So, hi, everybody. My name is Dupe Akinson, like you rightly said. I'm a chemical engineer turned human resources professional, and I have done this for about 15 years now. I've got a family. I'm married. I've got 3 kids, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please,
Uh,
you're going to be saying thank you to her for me for finding time out of no time to be here. So she
sure.
deserves
No
thank you.
way.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
My first question, what initially attracted you to a career in human resources and what skills and qualities are essentials for success in HR?
So I love this question because it's always a conversation starter for me. When people hear I studied engineering and then I'm doing HR, like, was it? So I will tell you that as a young teenager, one of the things I was excited about was the environment. All right.
Mm,
I was concerned about the environment. I was concerned about the ozone layer depletion and the fact that if we didn't do anything, the climate warming, global warming rather, was going to be a major issue. And so that was
mm,
what influenced my choice of career in chemical engineering. Um, but as I went through school, in my final year precisely, I took a course in environmental engineering that opened my eyes more to see that beyond the planet, beyond the processes, the biggest thing you have to fix are people. Now, what do I
mm,
mean by fixing people? It doesn't mean that people are broken or people have issues. It just means that we are the custodians of the world in which we live. So if we get people right, the environment is going to be better for it. All right. You don't need to fix the environment when you get things right with people. And so, personally speaking, I felt, you know what? I would rather work with people than work with processes, than work
mm,
with the planet. I felt that working within the field, because at the time I didn't know anything about HR. I didn't know there was anything called human resources. I remember taking up my lecturer on a challenge to say, is there anything like human engineering? Because that was the best I could think of at the time.
mm,
But I was
mm.
told about HR and I have never looked back. I
Wow.
have never looked back since I started this career. One of the skills I would say is, being passionate about people,
Mm,
strong business acumen, because HR is not about charity. HR is not just about liking people. You need to
mm,
like people for something. So I like working with people to bring the best out of them so that they can serve organizations and then have a positive impact in the society. So it's something I'm excited about. So in terms of skills you need to have, strong business acumen, you need to have leadership qualities, ability to influence people, because HR, what you're like the
mm,
middleman between people and the management. So you need to be able to influence people to do the right things, You need to be able to influence management to do right by the people. So influencing skills, very key. Excellent communication skills, very key. Ability to present yourself, your thoughts, your ideas in a way
mm,
that is clearly understood is very key. And you also need to understand numbers. When I say numbers, I'm not saying become a mathematician kind of numbers. I'm saying you need to be able to, because at some point, maybe when we talk about those segments of HR, you will know why numbers can be relevant at some point,
mm,
because you're going to be paying people salaries. You're going to be calculating, leave days, whatnot, shift hours, some details like that. So you need to also be analytical, because
mm,
not everything is straightforward when it comes to people. Managing people, you can't treat everybody the same way. So the ability to adapt, the ability to analyze and be able to come up with solutions that are fit for purpose is very critical. So
mm.
those are some of the skills that you need as an HR professional.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. That takes me to my next. What are the education required to be in an HR role? Because I know there's some young people listening now who are thinking, "Oh, actually, I would like that, but what do I do? What do I study?" Please, can you explain that?
Right. So, I mean, like, you can take a cue from my background. You can move from any field into HR. In
Mm,
terms of, it doesn't matter what your first degree is. I mean, I studied engineering and I'm practicing. Someone in medicine can decide to become an HR professional tomorrow. Now, what do you need to do? There are certifications, like the CIPD, Chartered Institute of Personnel Development in the UK here, that you can sign up for. And what that does is it takes you through different stages of HR depending on how far you want to go. So there is as far as CIPD level 7, where you can get to and become an HR manager. So that's one major certification in the United Kingdom, but is globally acceptable that you can position for. So it really doesn't matter what your first degree is. Once you're able to get into this sort of CIPD certification or go for a master's, that in human resources, it can help you easily. We have lawyers who transition to human resources as well
mm,
because of the employment law, labor law element, contract negotiations and whatnot, employee relations and
mm.
whatnot. So any field really can come into HR once you go through this CIPD certification piece.
Okay. So does that mean there's no in HR? Is that what that
So
means?
there is first degree. There is first degree. I'm sorry about that. There's first degree in human resources. So you have bachelor's degree in HR, and for people who are in arts, or the social
Oh, okay.
sciences bit, it's a business course. So we do have a degree.
Business.
However, I said all
Mm,
of the things I said earlier just to show people that even if you don't have that first degree, you can actually
yeah.
transition into it, because we have cases sometimes whereby the younger people sometimes are not quite clear, so they try different courses here
Mm,
and there,
yeah.
but it's just to
Yeah.
reassure them that it doesn't matter what your first degree is in, you can proceed to have an experience in HR or qualification.
Yeah. CIPD is the answer to that. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so
How
much.
about share that and some common misconceptions about working in HR that you'd like to clarify?
So I will tell you, let me start with the misconceptions first, right? So one of the misconceptions is, I've had situations where people think, I want to work in HR because I like people. That's in a sense I get it, but there are a lot of professions that require you liking people. Like, you can work in an NGO, you can be a charity professional, you can be a first aid responder, you can be anything. I mean, you have to like people, in a lot of professions. So it's not enough, right? So people think that HR is about liking people, but it's not. Another misconception is people think that HR is about getting the employees to like you. No, you're going to have to make tough decisions sometimes that might make people not to
Mhm.
like you. So you see some people get into the HR space and all they're thinking of is how to make people happy. You're never going to be able
Mm,
to make people happy, because people are not
mm,
going to be always satisfied with your thoughts, with your ideas, with your initiatives. So the goal is not to
mm,
make people happy. The goal is to create the right connection between the people and the business so that ultimately the customers or the stakeholders are satisfied. That's the main goal. It's not to make people happy. So sometimes people get frustrated when they're not able to make that happen. But your goal is not to make people happy. You're not ice cream, like they say. All right. Yeah. So what other misconceptions? Other misconceptions is like HR is for people who are not smart. Because people think HR is about people. They think it's just about talking, sitting in an interview room, feeling fancy, like you're deciding people's careers. And so you don't need a lot of brain work to do HR. You just need to figure things out, and people think that is all there is to it. No, my engineering background has been highly influential in my being able to come up with proposals, to management that have been adopted. Why? Because it requires critical thinking. HR is not about, filling leave forms or just paying people salaries. No, you need to be able to guide organizations in a way that will help them get the best out of people in order for them to achieve their strategy. So
Yeah.
HR is not for dumb people in that sense, because some people really think, oh, come on, it's a no-brainer. No, it's an all-brainer, because you have to work with people. So those are some of the misconceptions. Now,
Mm.
in terms of challenges, I think I've maybe might have touched on a little bit, which is because you find it difficult to make people happy, you can easily become people's enemy.
Mm.
I remember there was an instance in my career. I worked with one pharma company back in the days. Oh, so I got into this company and I realized that there were a lot of things not being done right. Okay, so some of their pensions weren't being remitted,
Mm.
taxes were not being filed properly, in this particular organization. So I came in to make some things right. And what that potentially meant was some of the monies they had been going home with wasn't due them. Some of
Wow.
them belong to the government, some of them belong to their pension pot for the future. So
Mm.
it meant they had to go home with lower salary. Now, because I understood that, I was able to negotiate something with the business, which is, you know what, you have done this for so long. If you're going to introduce this now, people are not going to be happy. So I need you to commit that you're going to meet the people halfway. You both take a responsibility. So people, found it difficult. They wanted the more from the company, but they didn't want their money to reduce in any way. So they were unhappy. Dupe became their enemy. Dupe was coming to cut their salaries, or that was how I was painted. And so for a long time, it felt like I was I wasn't in their good books, so I
Mm.
was frustrated, and it can be lonely sometimes because there are certain things you deal with confidential information as an HR
Mm.
person, so you can't really explain your side of the story every time. And so I had to bear all of the animosity by
Wow.
myself. And it wasn't until we had a situation where we let people go, and a lot of them had to go back to their pension pot to withdraw from it. And some of them came back to say, Dupe, thank you for not giving up at the time, because we now have something to fall back on at a crucial time like this. So, you can walk some really lonely roads sometimes, but you need to be clear on your why. You need to be clear on, being ethical and doing the right things, and also doing right by the people. So it's a combination of doing right by the business, doing
Yeah.
right by the people, and doing right by the law. So all
Wow.
of that can be sometimes complex to navigate, but be strong as a person, be
Mm.
mentally resilient to withstand some of those pressures. And at the end of the day, people will come back to appreciate your contribution.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll just ask the second to the last question. What do you find rewarding about your career
Oh,
in HR?
I mean, just this example that I gave you, people coming back to say thank you, is so rewarding. Looking back, oh goodness. You make some decisions about people. I mean, I've had people come back. I remember one time I was talking to one of my colleagues, and he told me his passion was about, training people, coaching them, leadership. And I could see that passion, but he was in supply chain, he was in production, and there was no way he could make that move. But I had to, based on my role, I had some level of influence. I was able to share with him strategies he could explore to navigate
Mm.
it. And I was also
Mm.
able to speak for him in the room, Because as an HR
Mm,
person, you have access to rooms that people will not have access to, where decisions are going
mm,
to be made about people who get promoted, who get sent on
mm,
trainings, who get this, who gets that. You're able to do that. So I was able to recommend this person as a successor for a particular role. And that's because I also knew he was doing some background work to make that a reality.
mm.
When opportunity
Yeah.
came, it met him prepared. So he looks back today. I
Mm.
remember the last time he came around to the UK, he came with gifts from his family, all saying thank you. I'm like, you don't have to do this. I was doing my job. I was doing what makes
Mm,
me happy. And each time
mm.
I look, at his growth, at his progress, it's one of the most rewarding things for me. Several of that. So it's fulfilling for me
Wow.
personally. Yeah.
Wow. Thank
I
you.
would
Thank you for
choose that
sharing
over mixing chemicals in the lab.
that. Thank you for sharing that. That's really
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, because I'm looking at our time. In very few minutes, are there any professional associations or certifications that are valuable for HR professionals? And can you offer advice for someone starting their career in HR, including any networking or internship opportunities? I know there's this thing on Instagram about professionals in
Oh, yeah.
Nigeria
Okay.
or
Yeah.
something. There's
Nigerian
so many of
professionals in
them.
the
So do
UK.
you want to? Thank you.
Right. So, I mean, I work with a company called GSK as an example, and we have early talent programs, internships. We have, such opportunities, and I think I know there are other organizations like that that have internship opportunities. So, if you Google internship opportunities, if you find any in my company, please feel free to apply. If you find anything anywhere in an organization that values people, please put in for an HR internship or even apprenticeship. I hear there's some good apprenticeship, and we do have apprenticeship in my organization, if I remember. But please just go online and check that out. And in terms of certifications, in the UK, you have the CIPD that I mentioned earlier, which is the Chartered Institute of Personnel Development. In the US, maybe some of you here, you have some network connections, or maybe you're looking to transition. The Society for Human Resources Management is also a community you can be a part of, that gives you insight into the HR space and whatnot. So please feel free to check out SHRM or CIPD, as the case may be.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this. And you can contact Dupe on her Instagram page. Is Dupe Akinsiu. She's there. She's the career accelerator and the vice president of my Fejikula alumni. Thank you very much for all that you do. Uh,
Thank you so much.
yeah,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. I really
Pleasure to
appreciate.
have you. Thanks for all you do too, sis.
Oh,
We
thank
love
you.
you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. All right. So this is where we call it a wrap. Thank you for watching. Please comment. Please connect with her because she's a very valuable person. I will say before you start filling out forms, this is now before forms to come and see her at is it Aso Rock or White House or wherever she's going in the near future. Thank you
Number
very
10.
much. Number 10. Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your
So
coming
much.
here. Have a lovely day. Have a
All
lovely
right.
evening. And
I
thank you.
do.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. I'll let you go now. Thank you.
All right.
So you've heard everyone, that is your person when you want a career acceleration. She is able to talk you through what you need to do, whatever. If you feel you're stuck in one level and you need a lift, this is the right person to talk to, and she's ready to speak with you. So thank you very much for those who are listening. You've heard it all. If you're in HR already, I mean, if you're not in HR and you want to go into HR, no matter what your profession is, you can actually go into that field, go through whatever has been said today, CIPD and so many other things. And if you're a young person thinking, oh, this is the kind of job I'd like to do, you know where to go. Thank you very much for listening. And I'd say bye bye.